me. Okay. Because I did not hit record at the beginning, again, I just want to explain that the applications for funding are not yet on the website. As soon as they are, we will, the HUD website, we will make them available to everybody. We will blast them out to the listserv. We will post them on our website. And we will post them on social media so everybody can see that they're available. But we want to have this meeting to go over this, to talk about the notice, to talk about the priorities, talk about scoring, which is the biggest change for us this year in many, many, many years. And talk about local deadlines. Again, the deadline for submission is September the 28th.
Not September, August.
September 28th for our community application. For our, you're exactly right, for your project application, it's actually August, is it August 28th or August 26th?
27th.
27th, that's right, 27th, that's right, 27th. And Kim and Sandy looked at that and said, are you sure you wanted to put it on a Sunday? Did you? And it was intentional, but thank you for catching that. Because if I said 5 o'clock on Friday, inevitably someone is gonna say, oh, well, I just did it on Saturday. And that's not fair to everybody else who's met the deadline. But then it's gonna be, well, nobody was in the office, so we thought it was okay. Just made it Sunday, that way you had the whole weekend, but that way I'm not gonna be looking for them until after my grandkids are gone that weekend, honestly, so I won't have to worry about it. So yes, and we'll go over the timeline in detail together. Again, the Continuum is the agency or the organization in the community that's designated to head up the tasks of seeking, monitoring, and collecting data for all service providers who get funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And just this is one part of what the Continuum does. And of course, the Continuum is housed here at the United Way and Home for Good. The committees do the work for the work that goes on, whether it's performance and outcomes, the steering committee, which is for all intents and purposes is the board. The application committee, of which you heard earlier, Sandy is the chair. Our coordinated entry committee, which Lindsay is the chair, mainstream and outreach, HMIS, which is our data collection arm of the continuum of care, our point in time count, or landlord engagement. Again, not going to read the slides to you, but these are all the committees that and there'll be some more we'll be voting on just to have some evolution of our continuum, and to really have a perspective from those with lived experience, instead of just having that. Good morning. Just instead of having that representative on our board from that has lived experience, where the steering committee has decided, and the whole hey, how are you? The whole COC membership will be voting on at the annual meeting to have a lived experience committee, folks who advise the board, and one of the board members would sit on that as a board representative to advise the board on making decisions, setting priorities, and those kinds of things from the perspective of somebody who's either currently or has recently, within the last 5 years, had experienced homelessness. Uh-oh. Don't know where that comes from. Oh, I just added a slide. Now you know why I use the mouse, right? Okay, the committee chairs. The board of directors. You have some changes in the board over the past year. We had several people who resigned or who had left their positions or moved out of town. So we have I think a more diverse looking board, and a more diverse expertise wise board than we've had in years past. Getting some good stuff done. Okay, talking about the competition, yes, the word is a competition, because again, I said this notice of funding opportunity that was announced on July the 5th is a, national competition for communities to compete against each other for a pot of money. But it's also the folks here in our own community that we're competing against to see who is either best performing, has best results in our community, because we want to reward high performers. So you will compete here. And I will go over a little bit of what that means, meaning that there's a tiering system. If you can imagine, you're looking at a spreadsheet and everybody's in a line. Well, you can only fund 95%, 95 to 96%. Last year was 95%. Each year it varies between 95 and 96% in tier 1 or at the first level. At the agency or the project that's at the bottom possibly could lose some of that funding that's over that 95%, should the community not perform at a level that's at or above median of the United States. So again, when I spoke about everybody coming together to help with the consolidated application, that's why it's so necessary to get everyone's input, but it's also how one agency's performance can affect all the others, because part of what we submit when we submit our application is our competition report that comes directly out of our HMIS. And it talks about community performance. It talks about length of days, length of time homeless. It talks about exits to permanent housing. It talks about returns to homelessness. It talks about increases in income and all of those things. All those system performance measures that we're all measured on during the year are taken into account as part of that HUD report that we pull from HMIS. Not something where we can pull it and put it into a spreadsheet. It's a CSV, it uploads, there's nothing you can touch. So it is what it is. So all of those, the better we do as a community, the better we do individually. And
Can I say something right here, Pat?
no,
Oh, geez, please. Now,
I knew I should have turned her off.
uh,
The Salvation Army has joined us. Hey, wave to Sandy. Say, hey, Sandy.
hi.
Danielle.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point that to further to add on to what Pat said. As a community, in the past 20 or so years that I've been doing it, we have never, once they started the tier 2 process, we have never lost funding, but that doesn't make us feel any more comfortable in doing the consolidated application, because in years past, we could, for lack of better words, we could, we could explain our story more. As in, if we did not score very well in a certain area, they gave us the opportunity to tell them why or what we were going to do to correct. And still there are questions like that. But for the most part, like Pat said, when it is becoming more and more data driven. And with that, it is very important that each one of our agencies are part of HMIS, that all of our data is correct, because though it's not just affecting you if you're not putting your data in HMIS correctly, it's affecting all of us, because like she said, once it's uploaded, it is what it is. Nobody can change any of that except for on your end when you are importing or putting your data in there and making sure that it is correct. So the continuum, being that it is so data driven now, if the continuum as a whole does not do good, it's a bigger impact. And in my point of view, of the consolidated application, it's a bigger impact. Even if one organization doesn't do their HMIS stuff correctly, it affects all of us tremendously on the consolidated application. So I just wanted to make that point, Pat.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about that, one of the things that each of us as agencies can do to make sure that we're capturing data as it relates to access to non-employment, non-cash income, food stamps, health insurance, those kinds of things, and income, is when, you know, Tarika's client Pat says, "Oh, hey, I got a job." Okay, well, where are you working? Well, I'm working at Hardee's now. Okay, when did you start? Well, I started last week. Do you have a pay stub yet? No. Can you get a letter from your boss? Sure. Okay. You went from 0 to, excuse me, $200 a week or whatever. That's an increase. You have just upped your performance metrics exponentially by noting that. Or, hey, my Medicaid finally came in. Okay, boom. You put that in there. My food stamps went up $50. You put that, all of those things lead to those metrics going up and improving your performance. And we all do this every day, and it just sort of becomes second nature to go, well, you know, we help people apply for food stamps and we help them get this and we help them get that. And it's like, okay. You are documenting your performance. You are documenting the success of your program. So don't cut yourself short on that. $1 is an increase. Put it in there. Yes, sir.
On that same note, I need to ask this question to you, Sandy, also. I'm Frank Brown from Upper Mission, Phoenix City, and we just opened up a transition living facility for homeless female. And my case manager, they have about 6 individuals from behind Piggly Wiggly up by the stadium. And we got a call over the weekend from the motel out here on Victor Drive. There's about 3 homeless female. Now, once they go out, we need to put this information into the data, into the HMIS.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Again, just not to belabor it, but making sure that you've completed I don't know how you cannot complete the application. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to submit and it wasn't complete, because every time I've forgotten something, it kicks back and says, please complete this, please, it won't let you go through. But being complete means you filled out everything, but making sure that if you have an area that doesn't apply to you, put NA or something. I never, ever leave a section blank, just because you don't want the question, did they forget this or whatever, making it that you paid enough attention to note that.
This application, you know, in the past, we've been able to kind of just upload what we've done in the past. Is that gonna be?
We would assume
Okay.
in the past two cycles that has happened, that you could upload or copy your last year's application, for the most part, and then change the areas that need to be changed. Again, caveat, making sure that you read through it all and that
Yeah,
you didn't leave in.
They have
Go ahead.
also, over the last several years, allowed you to submit without changes. And if you can do that, every time I have spoke to a HUD representative, they have encouraged that. Now, if you do have changes, naturally you have to make them. But if you're going forward in everything, I mean, perfect example is the transitional part of the House of Time. We know the residences that we're going to have. Very few. We've already signed leases a year out. We know those charges, and that very very few things will change during that time. So they do encourage, because if it shows no changes, then they know that they've already looked at it and what was given last year on that, on that application.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Thank you for that, Sandy. And making sure that you're eligible for the funding you're seeking. That would seem like it's a no-brainer. Once you've read the notice and everything else, obviously, if you've applied, and you're copying last year's, you obviously are eligible, because the eligibility didn't change for the project types. But we've had people, we've had projects or organizations in the past try to seek HMIS funding or coordinated entry funding, not realizing that that's a project of the continuum and not an individual organization. So just an FYI. And again, talking about its complete. And if I can, let me just, when we talk about you're being competitive in the local competition, again, it's about your data, and it's about telling your story. You cannot assume that, say, Safe House Ministries, Rapid Rehousing, just throwing it out there, that someone's gonna know about your organization and why you're doing this, or why this would be beneficial to the community. You have to tell your story. Okay, the key application parts, again, we talked about the consolidated application or the COC application, all of the projects applications, and then the project listing is when they're all ranked and prioritized. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so forth and so on. Again, this is based on 2022 data, like I have here at the top, because we did not change anything we don't have, but this is based on our grant inventory worksheet and the other bonus projects, bonus funding, and the planning dollars that were available last year. We do know that the planning dollars are supposed to go up this year, but we didn't know what to. So rather than guesstimate and be over, we left it. We know we're under, and I'd rather be under than over. All right, go ahead.
What, each year, like a couple years ago, the focus was DV, and then it was used. I haven't read the minutes, I'm calling that. Was it?
DV bonus is still out there for this year.
Okay.
YHDP is combined. So the youth homeless demonstration project is combined with this NOFO. So you're going to see a lot of the back and forth in the notice.
Okay, there is an additional DV bonus.
There is additional DV bonus, correct?
And Lindsay, you have completed the cycle for your last application, so you may want to consider combining all your applications.
I don't know that I can though, Sandy, because each one of them are not. I think DV bonus, I still haven't had my second contract. Big HUD has messed me up on that.
Yeah, one of them, she did not, she didn't get till way late.
Like a
Oh,
year late.
okay. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Okay. Okay. I just know when I was able to finally combine mine, it was a lifesaver.
Yeah, I plan, that had been my goal this year, but I don't think that's gonna.
We might want to, what was the date for your second one?
For my COC 2 is 5/1 or 6/30, and then my bonus is.
But have you gotten the second contract or not?
It came in by email today.
As long as you have it executed.
I mean, I'll sign it and send it back today.
We'll need to put in a note to HUD. If that's, so what we're talking about is Lindsay has 3 rapid rehousing projects. And they were funded at different times in different years. So this one may be January, this one's March, and this one's June. And consolidation means they're gonna take the first or the earliest contract date and combine all of them, and they will issue one contract going forward on that earliest date. If she gets approved, for the funding, which that usually doesn't, we don't usually have any problem with that. But that way you're not trying to write 3 applications. You're not trying to keep up with 3 different grant cycles and everything like that.
And 3 APRs.
Yeah, yeah. But that brings me to reallocation. We as projects need to take a serious look at if we have funds that could be spent in a more efficient manner in our community. Are we putting, does a rapid rehousing project, does Safe Houses rapid rehousing project in theory need, are they having trouble spending down their money? Are they not serving the numbers that they thought they would? Would they be better off in reallocating that money or saying to the continuum, hey, we're not going to be able to use 50,000 of this or whatever. We need to be able to shift it. We're going to make a smaller application and let's shift it. Okay, so as a community, what is it that we're looking at? What is it that we're lacking? Our permanent supportive housing, for instance, beds, be it from a substance abuse provider, such as with Sandy in the House of Time, or whether it be the traditional permanent supportive housing that we knew that was run by New Horizons for so many years and now is on Safe House. But we need more of those beds because they're at max all the time. So reallocation, it's not a bad thing to say, hey, we're not using this as we thought we would. Times have changed, environment has changed. Heck, it may be, listen, with the way the rental market is right now, we're not able to move people on fast enough. So how do we as a community use those funds in a more effective way in the community? That is truly being the servants and the stewards of the money that we all would strive to be. So we're going to have to look at those, and some of that will come along in some of the thresholds we'll look out for from the scoring perspective on the drawdowns and the quarterly things, because that's important. That's important. Okay, again, I didn't change that. Oops, let me change this right now. Can you tell I use the same slides? 2023, same as last year. These projects are not available for funding. Emergency shelter, homeless prevention, transitional, except when it's they're not doing any new transitional, but if you have an existing one, you're fine, or if it's part of a transitional to rapid rehousing, which is a new concept that came out a couple years ago. And supportive services are only for coordinated entry, and only the COC lead can apply for that. Go ahead and open that can.
Okay, my bad.
It's like someone who's trying to quietly open the potato chip bag, and it's like, just open it already. Okay, and these priorities are the same as they were last year from HUD. And again, this is definitely straight out of the notice, which we're going to look at in a minute. And I'm not going to read this to you, but making sure that these things are weaved into your descriptions of your project, weaved into your narratives, but they're also weaved into your day-to-day operation of your project. This is not something where once a year, is going to go, oh yes, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And then next year we still say, we're going to do this, and we have to live this every day. And as you start checking in your head that box of, okay, yeah, we weave this in, move to the next one, move to the next one, move. It's not that difficult. But it takes intent. It takes intention. We have to intentionally, seek to follow the priorities, for the funding we want. I mean, if we don't, that's okay, but then this is not the funding for you. And we've had organizations to say, listen, we don't want to compete with our colleagues in the community. And some of these things go against the grain of our agency or what we stand for, so we're going to bow out. Fine, absolutely. It's not for everybody. Okay, again, list of how we can use it. The money, and again, the eligible activities, and in these, on all of these, the links work. I'm going to take you to this one really quickly, and I don't know if you folks go online can see the COC program toolkit.
No,
Do they go? No, okay, hold on. I'll probably have to reshare. Hold on.
yes,
Can you see it now? Okay. This tells you all of the eligible activities for COC funding, and then goes into detail and tells you about them. Really, really, really encourage you to take a look at this if you have any questions, but also it's really a good refresher, even if you have been doing this for a while. It's a good refresher to go, oh man, I forgot about that, or I forgot about that. Interestingly enough, Kim and Sandy and Lindsay, you know, remember a couple years ago, we scored HMIS at the bottom of our ranking, explicitly in the instructions this year. And I had never seen this before. It said HMIS coordinate entry has got to be in tier 1 because they're essential to the operation of the COC. Had never seen that before. So apparently someone else did the same thing we did. And that didn't work out so well. So, and it wasn't that we lost money. It's just one of our bonus projects was awarded, not as a bonus, but as just as a new project. Okay, let me go back to my slides here. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and share again, because I think every time I change it disconnects you. All right. And this is the ranking process, and it's a little different. Well, this is just the score thing at the bottom. We're going to go through the whole scoring sheet, the thresholds and all together in just a few minutes. But the scoring is a little different than it has been in the past. We're using the HUD template, which I'm going to take everybody to. And the projects are scored based on their project type. And then they all, of course, it's weighted for 100 points scale. But this way, it's not comparing apples to oranges. It's and it's going into some detail on some things that we have done for years, but also making it real apparent that that's something that HUD's looking at. But again, we're using their tool. We took out a few things that seemed a little redundant, but some of the things that we had in ours, they have as a threshold. If you can't get past, do you participate with HMIS, or do you agree to participate with HMIS, or are you financially capable of documenting a proof of match and those kinds of things? Those are the thresholds that HUD says, hey, these first 5, if they can't get past this, you just need to walk away. So, all right, again, going to the application, I'm going to take us all right here. Now, watch, as soon as I do this, watch, HUD had posted it this morning after I checked at 8:30. Watch. So this is the funding. Again, notice the funding opportunity that was posted on July the 5th, as you can see here, and closes on September 28th. And yes, it does say 8 PM Eastern Daylight Time because that's 5 PM Pacific time. So rather than having rolling different times, they just put it at 8. So this is the notice. Come on. It prepared on, come on. I posted it on grants.gov. Can you guys, are you seeing the grants.gov page, Sandy?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the notice. And like I said, it's was it 124 pages? Or 100 and?
130 something, I can't.
Okay, right. It goes into great detail about the notice, about what's available, what it's available for. All of the different, for instance, let's go here, the timeliness standards. Okay, talking about, we have to have obligated the money by 2025, we have to have spent it by 30/30. All of that. It's not what I wanted, you know what, I wanted the timeline. I think that's page 62, if I remember correctly, 62 or 68. This talks about, how many, this is where they're talking about the points for the different sections. Really, really, really important that we look at this. You understand that when we're talking about, are you coordinating, are you making sure that when you discharge somebody, you don't like, all right, cool, we're through paying your rent, good luck to you, we'll see you later. But that we started planning their discharge the moment we just started enrolling. So that when we're doing those warm handoffs, we're making those connections. But one of the things I wanted to show you, and again, please, 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 everyone read this. Again, you will find hyperlinks throughout this, and this is part of what we were talking about here, about weaving in the priorities. One of the priorities of HUD is making sure that everybody has equal access, regardless of anything, just equal access. And so making sure that we know what the rule is and that we're applying it every day. But let me go to, and then we'll go to some other parts here. Okay. Application. At the top. Page 68. There we go. Okay. This is, remember I was saying that there, HUD sets the stage for how often or how we have to do this. Again, it's due on September the 28th by at 8 o'clock, and it's actually supposed to say Eastern Daylight Time because we'll still be under daylight savings time there. And then the project applications must be in no later than 30 days before that deadline. And then it says the COC has to notify the projects with no later than 15 days before that submission deadline. So when we look at the process and the timeline for locally, it all comes directly out of this. So we start at the deadline, we start on the 28th and we start backing out or backing back up. So the reverse of going from here to there, but it's starting there and going backwards. And we set up our application timeline for us each year to submit 2 days early for a number of reasons. Number one, because at the last minute, everybody is bogging down the server. And so if you're submitting on that last day, you may or may not run into issues. Again, another thing, just an FYI, when you're in eSnaps, and I'm going to show you where that is, where you'll be doing your application. Mondays and Fridays are the busiest days. First thing in the morning and right about 5 o'clock, again, are the busiest times. You may or may not experience some delays or whatever. when you're in your application, I encourage everyone to save, 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 save. You don't want to sit there and type for an hour and then realize your stuff is not there. What I also encourage folks to do, and in fact, I can show you how you can do this from last year's, is to open up the application, copy it into a Word document, and use that as your draft. Work on that, and as you feel comfortable, start uploading it to the application. But working on that as a draft, that way your number counts, because some of them are gonna be number, character or word sensitive, word count sensitive. You can work on those. When you can use abbreviations and instead of with, W, and a slash, that may come in handy, just FYI. But never use an abbreviation for your agency or a program that you have not previously defined, because you don't want to, well, the ABC, the 1, 2, 3, and this and that, and because we all know we speak in our own language. And Kim and Sandy have heard this before. I was on the board for 2 years before anyone asked a question about what a NOFA was. Like, I know what a NOVA is. I mean, you know, my grandfather drove one of those, but I didn't know what a NOFA was. And it was like, and actually it was Liz from Homeless Resource Network who said, it's a notice of funding availability. Now they're called NOFOs. And I said, oh, okay. And everybody just sort of looked at me and I said, y'all knew? No, but nobody wanted to ask. So we all just walked around smiling, acting like we knew what we were talking about. Don't be afraid to ask the question. Speaking of which, anyone has any questions about anything during the process, after today, they all have to be in writing in an email, and the answer will go to you and everybody else who has signed a letter of intent to apply. That way, everybody's getting the same answers to the same questions. And it's not, Pat told me this, Pat told me that, and Tarika told me that, and whatever. But again, this notice critically important that everybody read the notice. I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. Go back to my PowerPoint here. And well, we're gonna go right here to eSNAPs. And that is where you will eventually, be filling out your application for your grant application. eSNAPs is the access point. And I will also be attaching how to access eSNAPs, how to get a username, and all those other things. Should you not have one, we will supply you with all of those documents, all of those links as well. But eSNAPs is the place. There's no paper. There's no nothing. eSNAPs date and time stamps everything. And trust me, there were organizations, there were more than a handful of organizations or communities last year that thought, oh, they could get through after 8 o'clock. Their application was pushed back right back. So it's critically important that we keep with our deadlines, and that's why we try and again put them earlier than is required. Okay, and again, the training manuals are here. Almost share this again. This is where the training manuals will be once they post them. You'll notice we have some of the things from last year that are still here. But oh, okay, here documents coming soon, how to access the application, how to your renewal. This is the navigational guide. I'm gonna check on this. This should be last year's, but I want you to see what I was talking about earlier about those detailed instruction, the navigation guide with the one had the pictures, my grants for dummies. Really helpful for newcomers, but really for those of us who've been doing it for a while and you sort of get in a rut, and you're like, oh, I got this, and then you realize you don't. It really, once it opens up, sorry for the internet speed this morning. It's a nice tool to have. And in fact, because HUD does these navigational guides for just about everything, we took that into consideration when putting together the coordinated entry guidebook and those kinds of things. So everything sort of looks the same across the board. But this is what, just scroll down, would not hurt while we're waiting for this year's to be looking through this. It's not gonna change a whole heck of a lot. But let me go. Here we go. Again, it tells you exactly where to go and what it's going to look like. And that goes throughout the document. So really, really, really does hold your hand and walk you through it. Again, the links to that page for the HUD Exchange is on the slides. So really, really encourage everyone to, again, read the notice. I don't know if you're a computer reader or if you're a paper reader or whatever, but however you need to be able to highlight it, whether you're good doing that on a screen or if you're like me and you have to have that highlighter in your hand and you have to put the little tag on the page so you know where to go, whatever, making sure that it becomes a living, breathing document for you. But also looking at this, the HUD Exchange for the COC information. Again, this is last year's. As you can see, it says coming soon for this year's, but it won't change a whole heck of a lot, and you'll be comfortable once you open it up. I don't know about anybody else, but I know the first time I did this, I physically was shaking, thinking, this is the federal government, you know, and it was a big deal for me. So, again, here we're talking about how to get into the eSnaps. Stop share again, make sure that you guys can see my screen. Now, this page
Yeah.
is, if you haven't been into this page in a little bit, this has changed just a little bit. It's a little bit of a cleaner look. But if you are used to going to the old page, it takes you a moment to get used to it. But it talks to you about how to create a user, bless you, how to create your profile, how to get in, determining your applicant status or what kind you are, all of those other things, again, and taking you through how to do your application. Again, really, really important to take a look. And I think maybe it's a good thing that we're doing this and we don't have access to the application today, because honestly, what happens is everybody starts typing. And then they get halfway through and go, man, I don't know what this means or how to do this. And then you get the panic or whatever. Also, you have to create your user profile. And you have to update your applicant. Once you create your user profile, then you'll do an applicant profile, which is because you're confirming if you've been there before. Yes, ma'am.
Everybody also has to have a profile in SAM, right?
We're getting to that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You do have to be in SAM. But if your applicant profile is the beginning of, yep, I'm going to go ahead and do an application for this year. Kim's email address is not Kim at Open Door anymore. It's Kay Jenkins at Open Door. So we're making all of those changes. It's giving you an opportunity to look through your stuff and make sure that you've changed, you know, oh, Tarika is the contact now for this and not Pat or whatever. Making sure you're making all those changes. Very important too, because you hate for your grant award to come and it went to the wrong person. That would not be cool, or got stuck somewhere. So really, really important to take some time now, read the notice, look at all of these different pages, you know, to make sure that that you have all of the documents and all of the things needed, and that you just have some familiarity. Okay. Again, local questions about the local timeline or whatever, or actually anything, and it may be that the local answer is, we don't know, that you have to go to one of these question boards or technical assistance options with HUD, whether it be about technical issues with eSnaps, again, that's where we fill out the application, or if it's a question about, on question 21, did that refer to just domestic violence victims, or is that how we respond to everybody, or whatever? So those questions, those would be going to the COC NOFO email address. Again, we do our same thing here locally, that we do it all in email. All right, our local timeline. Again, it was still released on July the 5th. In true HUD's fashion, I was actually expecting it the Friday before July 4th, as they've done to us many times before. I was literally kept refreshing on Friday night, looking to see if it was there. But it was July the 5th. Again, the 26th of September, everybody has to have posted. They have to have a public posting at least 2 days before the deadline, or 2 days before their submission, whichever's first, as required by HUD. So the 26th would be the last day we could do public posting. Again, submission deadline is 28th, and as we looked at the timely, at the time for obligation is a 2025, September 30th of 2025. That means you have to be under contract at that time. Again,
I'm just laughing at the date.
yeah,
Until I get a contract.
if we giggle because, you know, it's September 30th, 2025. You get the contract, September 29th.
And then they respond to your email. and you're
That's right.
like, oh my God.
Yes. They're not the swiftest folks most of the time. Again, talking about our local priorities is today. On the 22nd, our scoring team will be meeting to go over training on the scoring tool that we're going to look at in just a few minutes.
Who's gonna be on the scoring team?
Okay, we have returning, we have Melanie's Close from Piedmont Columbus Regional. Returning, we have Rick McKnight, who's been on the COC board.
Okay.
We have Kristen Barker from Better Work Columbus,
Okay.
who has tentatively committed. We have Sam Gursky from CSU, who has tentatively committed. And there's one more that I can't think of off the top of my head, going for 5. And I can't remember who that was.
I said that they were.
Yeah. A little bit of a different makeup than we've had in years past. Trying to make sure it's folks who have a handle on homelessness and what that looks like for our community. As far as response goes, but also those who have experience in other either nonprofits or in grant writing, securing grants and those kinds of things. Oh, I know who it was. It was a person with lived experience that has not yet committed yet. That's why I couldn't think of it. Okay. Again, dividing up August 1st maybe a fairy tale, but hopefully starting August 1st, trying to look at our consolidated application and starting to put some of the things in there that we can bring over from last year or whatever, and have everybody sort of weigh in. At the same time, project applications are going to be underway and due on the 27th. And the reason we don't do the training for the scoring is we want it to be real fresh when they get the applications on the 27th. They take about 4 days to look them over, read them over. And then we'll get together and meet here and go over and score the applications. Preliminary list is then sent to all of the agencies and posted. Any appeals are sent in within 7 days. We have a bigger window this year than we've had in years past for appeals. You can thank Labor Day for that, but I think it's important. Appeals committee to meet a couple days later and priority listing.
May I ask a question about?
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
part of the process?
Sure.
So last year, there seemed to be quite a bit of change between the priority listing and the final listing,
Mhm.
but the appeals process had already ended. So I guess I'm just curious, and there may not be, but is there a way that appeals can last beyond the final listing?
I can find out. I know that it was set because if you, so you're saying having a double appeal, of the appeal for the first and an appeal for the second?
Especially if the second one's gonna change.
Okay. Okay, we will, my thing is, Sandy, can you write this down, please? We'll need to ask, because normally there is one, from what our advisors have told us in the past, there was one appeals process, but we can ask, absolutely. And all of this, I think it's really important that we are. Somebody talked to me the other day and asked me, you know, how do people, how are community providers and all working together? I remember in years past, there was never discussion about how anything, we just sort of, okay, it is what it is, and we keep going. The fact that this is moving, this is evolving, we're adjusting, we're changing to our landscape, to who we're serving, how we're serving it, and how we serve our, not only our organizations, but our constituents better. I think that's really cool. So let's continue to push each other to do that better. So let's, we'll get, I'll get, not Rachel. Oh, gosh, home base. Yeah, I can't think of her name either. Bridget, we'll get Bridget to weigh in on that, but I don't see where that's a problem. And we would put out a new competition process timeline, or just an amended one with the adjustments as we needed, okay? And then the COC board will need to meet, and it may be that when we're doing that, now that let's talk this through real quick. Sandy, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, if that's the case, we may shorten that first appeals process. What do you think? Instead of it being 7 days, we may take it to 3, have them meet, post, have a second appeal, and we'd be able to still do it within the same time frame. What are your thoughts,
Yeah,
Kim?
I think that's much better personally. In years past, it hasn't been an issue until last year because it had not changed. The scoring committee and all of that did not change the original ranking. So I think, Pat, maybe we feel like that when the original ranking comes out, that is what it's going to be. So maybe we can be a little bit clearer that this is just a preliminary ranking until, because I don't think we really understood that once that email was sent out to us as the ranking, that could change. I mean,
Okay, so right. So I don't mean to cut you off, but while I'm thinking
No.
about it, so do we go and somehow flashing lights, sirens, whatever, preliminary ranking, number 1. Yes, I agree. But number 2, Pat puts in an appeal because she thinks she should be scored higher than Lindsay because of this, that, or the other, whatever. Okay. Do we then notify all project applicants that an appeal has been filed and who has filed it? I'm asking.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, if we're gonna, it's totally transparent. And if we keep it totally transparent, that's the only way that you can do that is if you're responding to a certain person's questions back to all of us, I
Right.
think that should be the only way that it happens, that this is your preliminary ranking according to, I could not get that out, according to the data that was pulled and according to the scoring that scoring template. Now, the scoring committee looks at it from a local standpoint and says, okay, they may have scored this way through their scoring template, but we as a community feel like this project should shift up or whatever. And so those are, I think that if it does change, that the preliminary ranking does change, that we ask for the scoring committee to give us a reason why that scoring was changed, whether it be that the community felt that it was more important, the needs analysis was done, and DV should rank higher than whatever, or, Kim's rapid rehousing should be higher than Sandy's, however that needs to work. But I think if it's transparent and we understand that, then I don't think we should have any problems at all with the scoring tool.
Okay, so do we do, again, a two-part appeals process?
I personally think it's only fair if the preliminary changes and it changes somewhat considerably like it did last year, then I think there has to be a way to appeal the final. Or else there's no.
Then that might, yeah. So if we're not given a two appeal process, then we should not see anything until after the scoring committee says this is where you go.
Makes it
And
final.
then we have our appeals process. As
Yeah.
that to me, that sounds only fair. I don't need to see where I'm ranking preliminary. I don't. I need to know that after the committee looks at it and where I'm going to be ranked with HUD, that's what I would need to see. And from
Right,
when
but-
I see that,
Right.
I don't need it to change.
But the guidance in the NOFO clearly states you have to give the thing and give people a right to appeal.
Right. That's right. But your right to appeal should be on your final product, in my opinion. If you're going to give us more than one,
But we'll go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, if you're going to give us more than one product, possibly. As in more, like happened last year. If you're going to give it to us more than one time with the possibility of it changing, yes, I am totally in agreement with, we need to shorten it and have a two appeal process. If
So
If
ahead.
the
Mhm.
only thing we're going to see is after said and done, the computers run everything, the template has scored us locally. Now the scoring committee has looked at it. And if we could agree as a group that says, hey, I really don't need to see anything as far as the template's concerned. All I need to see is where it lies. Then we would only see it one time. But if we agree that we need to see where we rank from a template standpoint, and then if the scoring committee changes it, if a feedback could be given to us why it was changed, I think that would satisfy everyone. Kim?
Yep, I agree.
Okay, so I'm going to, let me go back to the non PDF form. We'll do this all here together right now. That's really so I don't forget. So if we're looking at, okay, can you see the timeline?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so if we're looking at the ranking is done on the 31st.
Let me ask you, why would we need the two? Why would we need to see it two times?
I don't think we need to see it 2 times. I think we just need to see the final, right?
But there's you.
That's what I'm asking.
What I'm saying is the first one is the final unless there's an appeal.
Okay, so there was an appeal last year.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I think, Kim, that's where I misunderstood it. Okay, so we're only seeing the final unless there is an appeal and then there needs to
Correct.
be. So in that case,
So if
Yes,
that's
we
what I'm saying,
need-
so we're looking here at the appeals are due on the 7th, which I can't get to my calendar at the same time. So can someone bring up no, I'm looking for the calendar for, thank you, for September.
Okay.
the 7th is a Thursday, September the 7th.
Right, so if we're looking at August the 31st, that was, oh, so it's a full week. Okay, and Labor Day is the 4th, right? So we can do, if we can do this, if we can make appeals due on the 5th. Does that make sense?
But I would do it
Yes.
5 p.m.
5 PM on the 5th, okay, so I'm gonna go here. On the 5th. At 5 PM. Okay, and then. We'll need to, I'm gonna need to put
And
in,
then you'll, like you said earlier, let everybody know if an appeal has been made
yep,
and from whom.
yeah, let me put in some more lines, some more, yeah, those, Rose. Okay, so the 5th is the deadline. So then they will need to meet.
It'll be the 6th.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. The 6th. Okay, so that's appeal 1. So then. Let me copy this real quick. No, don't do that. Copy this, so the wording is exactly the same, but this is going to be. Posting. So we had the first posting, we had an appeal, we do. Ranked list. After appeal. Does that make sense? After one appeal. Okay, and so we'll need to do that. That will be on the 6th as well. So it's not preliminary priority list. It's going to be priority list. After appeal 1. Email to agencies. Sense? Yes,
Yes.
no? Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right, cool. So we have that one. Where's this came from? Ah. Take this out. Hold on. We did the same thing here. Okay. Review over. So we have appeal 1 done. And the 6th is a Wednesday.
Yes.
I'm looking at you guys to tell me when is the second appeal gonna be? Due.
I mean, I would say early Friday morning by the 8th, that gives the opportunity for sometime on Friday, or either on the 7th. So the scoring committee can look at it again on Friday. I mean, it's going to be tight right there, but I mean, we got to post by the 12th.
Right, okay, so here we go. All right, so applicant appeals due. Okay, and this is now on the 7th, correct? If we did it on the 6th, are we saying first thing in the morning? We're saying noon. You guys tell me.
What do you mean on the
You-
7th?
Uh-huh,
But that way they can look at it on Friday and have everything out to us by the 11th.
what I'm saying is on the 7th, are we saying? What time are they due? Somebody give me a time.
I think 5 PM is fair, because then you're gonna have to wait to get the stuff back from y'all. Then redo the appeal, get it resubmitted amongst all the other stuff we do during the day.
Okay. Okay, so on the 7th, the appeals due. And then. What? Is that your dog or is that you?
She muted you.
Uh-huh.
Hilarious.
This is how the sausage is made. Woo-hoo. All right, so appeals reviewed as needed. So that's happening on the 8th. Is that correct? And then,
About that afternoon, we should know that if there was no more appeals, or if what happened with either one of, I mean, with the second appeal, if there was one, and then, I mean, it is what it is at that point, then then it's posted on the 12th.
right, trying to get another line in here. Mhm. Come on, let me go. There, thank you. Oh, still not letting me. All right, you're not letting me put enough one in here. I don't want to split though. What am I missing here? I can't see it. Try that.
You can't just go right where you click on COC board, right click and say insert.
That's what I did before.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, it's very good, won't let you.
Oh, there we go, here we go, here we go. We'll move it around when we need to. Okay, so we have, all right, 6th, 7th, we have the appeal formulated and sent. They meet on the 8th. And then here we go. This one. Right? Yep, we need it right here. Okay, so here we got posting, this right here, we're going to say posting of appeal 2, correct? Right here. And this is number 2. Number 2. And this is going to be on the 8th, correct? And then we're sending it to the, if that's the case, I'm gonna move this back to the 8th too. And that way we're posting on the 11th after, we're sending it to the board and, here, does it make sense? Making this the 8th. And change this one to the 8th too. So we've done the second appeal. We sent it to all the projects. We sent it to the board and said, hey, we need your vote. And they have until Monday to respond. Does that make sense now?
Yes.
So again, so we've got, so everybody look at these dates again one more time. So primary, the first list goes out on the 31st. Because of the holiday, we have until that next Tuesday at 5 p.m., which is the 5th. File the appeals. The 6th, the group gets together, the board gets together, appeals committee gets together. Reviews them, we post it and email it to all of the participants. The next, if there's still a concern, the next appeal is due the next day at 5 p.m. Reviewed on the 8th. And then posted and emailed out on the 8th. Sent to the board members. And posted online with a vote by 5 p.m. on the 11th, so that we can publicly.
I probably switched 9/11/2023 and 5 p.m. like, because it looks like 5 p.m. on the 8th, if you read that.
Okay.
Not that that really matters, but.
Yeah, absolutely, you're fine.
I never heard that. Oh, it's too much time today.
Okay. And then we post on the 12th, which has us in compliance with that 15-day prior to the submission deadline of the 28th. We all good with this one? Okay, we're gonna change this one. It's gonna be revised July 24, 2023. Save as. Okay. Wonderful. So once we get through the appeals, again, post at the board. And by this time, it's full on, everybody's focused on making sure that the consolidated application is put together. It's, hey, Lindsay, you've got section 3B questions 4, 5, 6, and 7. Hey, Kim, I need you to do section 1A 13 to 14, or hey, is there anything you can add to this? Any of the collaborations, networks that you have, where, you know, you may have a great working relationship with someone who's does a great job with employment services or whatever. Bring that to that consolidated application. Because again, we're not all gonna be doing the same thing. And if we are, then we're not serving our clients real well because we're only doing one thing. Every one of us brings unique relationships, unique perspectives to it. So all of that has to be taken into consideration when we're doing that application. And again, at this point, we're honing it, we're looking at it, perfecting it, making sure all of the other documents that have to be included with the consolidated application are there, and we're getting ready to roll. So I think that was a great engagement there to look at our timeline and do some changing around. So let's take a look now at the other things in this file. No, not that one. Oh, there we go. Not the one that I wanted. I was just there. Ah, there we go. That deadlines we just went over. That's the PDF format that we're getting rid of. Party ranking tool. Here we go. Great, let's do this. There we go. Now this is the PDF format of and I will send out the Excel spreadsheet, but it's just easier to look at on the screen this way. And you're not having to scroll all the way over. As I mentioned in the,
We can't see it.
Yes.
hang on one second, I'm sorry. The one time I didn't go ahead and redo the sharing. See, we actually, they're paying attention still. We're good. As I mentioned, when we were going through the presentation, the scoring, thresholds and those kinds of things, are different for the different projects. This is the maximum score. This is just the HUD maximum score, and for different projects. Looking at this, we have taken some things out to make some, for it to be more suitable. That's the word I'm looking for our community. So we were talking earlier about performance measures. Again, the number of days or length of time homeless is what they're talking about here. Exits to permanent housing, all those things that in our system performance measures and all those other things that we report on, whether we're doing this system performance measures to HUD, or if we're doing APRs for our individual projects or programs, those are kinds of things. Yes,
Where it says max point value, how are they gonna be calculated up to the max points?
Like, is there a range, like 0 through
Yeah.
10 is this,
Yeah.
10 through 15 is this, 15 through 20 is this?
you know what? I will have to ask that. I will have to ask that because I read that, Kim, but I didn't read that. I read it and I just said it gets 20 points.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're not at 90% and you get 0 points, that just needs to be very clear. But if you're at 75%, you're gonna get 15 points, and we need to know what our range is. I think is, are you getting all or nothing, or is there a range?
Because the way it's calculated, when I was playing with it, it looked like it was all or nothing, but I will double check on that. I guess that's why I didn't pay attention, because it just seemed like it was either there, or it wasn't there.
I do think we
Um,
can amend that to, even if we added another line item, another performance measure that would give you points.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna give, this is Sandy. Okay, you
Yeah.
can help me redo the macros, okay? Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Cause it's a booger. It's a booger bear. I mean, it's a great tool, but it's a booger to create the map. But you're saying to go ahead and say what you were saying. before I was so rudely interrupted you.
No, I was just saying that, I'm with Kim, if you're not at 90%, it's all or nothing. I mean, that 20 points is gonna hurt real bad. I mean, do we consider it?
Sorry. We lost you, Sandy. Found that mute button that Steve's been looking for all these years.
I know that's right, but I'm unmuted. I mean, he's still looking for it, trust me. But so like Kim said, the way it reads right now, it's all or nothing. And we just need to decide as a continuum, is that fair to all of us at all or nothing? Because, HUD they do expect, 90% is basically all or nothing. But as a local continuum, do we say, hey, at 80%, we're still going to give you 10 points, but anything, or 85%, anything less than that, you're getting nothing. You're getting nothing. What would, as a continuum, will we still stick to the 90% is exactly, that's what we're all striving for, but not all of us are doing that. We know that some of our programs are, some of them are not. So it may just be cut and dry. Do we leave it at 90% because that's what our expectations are? Or do we cut leniency and say, okay, I've been at 87% for God knows how long, and I've tried everything I know how. I'll never reach 90%. I'm just using that as an example. I will never get that 20 points. And do I just keep trying? Or is there going to be, we look at it differently? That's just a conversation we can have another day.
But I think everybody, number one, I'm glad we brought it up while we're all together, and but also I think it's a conversation that some of the project leads have been going through for the last 3-4 months, talking about our scoring, talking about how we it was time to change it, but it's also time to look at, the DV rapid rehousing differently than we look at the regular rapid rehousing, because they're two different animals.
Yeah.
So what I would like to suggest, again, you know what? Let me just hit print. I'm gonna print a couple of copies of this. And I'd like for folks to look over it for the next week. Again, we don't even have the applications out yet. Scoring training isn't for 4 weeks. Let's all have a tool that we're all comfortable with.
I think in that particular question, in light of what you said at the very beginning of this meeting, that housing is starting to come back, affordable housing is starting to come back in our community. So this may be a HUD priority, but where are we thinking for local priorities? I think that's what we just need to do.
Right, so I'm gonna hit print because I just told her I was printing and she ran.
But I think from the scoring committee to the ones that are actually doing that if it's 80% gets 10 points, about 83%, I either get 10 points or I get, like, it's not all of a sudden I get 12 points because I'm grading that. Or Monica would grade it different. Does that make sense? Like anything between 80 and 90 is X amount of points, whether it's 82% or 85%.
So it's defined.
I would say, because we would, I think, Lindsay, at that point, really complicate it. The macros are a little bit difficult. So, we would just have to find a medium ground for us. At what point are we at our lowest point for, say, transitional housing? What's our lowest point that we're willing to give you any credit for, and then decide how much that will be? And then you either get that or the whole 20 points. I don't know if we should break it down any further than that. So between 85 and 90, say you would get 10 points, but if you instead of breaking it down, that if you got 88, you get 14 points, however we all decide to do it. But I think to keep it, more simple.
Yeah, I think simple is fine. I just wanted to be consistent.
Absolutely.
I think last year there was people that were doing the 0.5 and the point, and you're kind of like, so you either get 10 points or nothing, or 20. It's I'm good with that.
So I'm gonna invite everybody here, and I'm also, after today's meeting or tonight's meeting, which honestly, I hope that, it's a quick meeting if anybody's logs on tonight at 5 to listen, they're gonna hear the same thing. But at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, being on a Zoom call is a little tough, but wanted to make sure everybody had an opportunity to attend. If they were a new project that had something that their primary job or whatever, just making sure we have availability. But I'm gonna invite everyone here to take a piece, to take the form with them, write on it, whatever, share it back. Also, I'll post it online and share it with anybody this afternoon that is in attendance. To say, hey, what do you think? Make any suggestions, have any questions, whatever, so that we truly will have a tool that again, is customized for our community, had the input of the projects being ranked in the community, but knowing that as we go forward, it's going to be ever evolving more and more and more and more and more. So that's as much as it, it's very easy to go, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do, but that's that doesn't work and doesn't promote growth or cooperation or just having the ability to have a discussion and express our feelings, brings about a whole different line of trust within the community. But also, I think you're more likely to say, hey, I need your help on this, or can we do this, or how about that, if we feel like we can be, put ourselves out there with each other. So let's take this and so this can be a little overwhelming, for me anyway, this sheet. Just because it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on forever. In my personal opinion, and again, want to look at everybody here and say, I would like to break out, here's your rapid rehousing for purposes of illustration. This is great. But for scoring, for a scoring person, I think it's going to be a little much. I would like to say, here's your transitional one, and here's all your transitional programs. Here's your rapid rehousing one and all your rapid rehousing, because if not, it's like, holy shit balls. I would not volunteer to do it if it was me.
So I'm gonna ask a crazy question or a dumb question.
Well, I mean, it's you.
I know, well, you know that, and I'll also call you that you.
Mhm.
So who, on the left side where the X's are, is that just in relation to the project, or is this just a sample? So like if I was actually scoring this, how would I do that?
How would you, this is just in relation to the project. The scoring tool is as complicated as much. I will show that to you.
Okay,
I took it off for purposes of illustration today because it's crazy.
right, so like on a normal one, those X's wouldn't be there, but for rapid rehousing DD, the third one right there may be, and then. Correct?
In the one we're proposing, yes,
Okay, that's what I'm
Yes.
just trying to
yes,
make
Yes.
sense.
so, this, I really want, if we're gonna have folks to take a look at this, I really want you guys to look at this. I did not think it added any value to the scoring tool to look at the local average cost per. We're all dealing with FMR, but we're also dealing with, we had waiver for FMR for part of this past grant funding year. So then that would be applicable for these many months, but not fair market rent or fair market rate for rent. Because of the COVID waivers, we could go above what the fair market rate was for our area. But of course, the rentals are way above that anyway. So I didn't think it added any value,
I mean, I agree with that.
but then there was, and this, I actually have an email to HUD on this one, but if we're gonna redo it to the other format, I can make it work. This section here on serving high need populations. I checked here the APR for our region. It would be based on regional or COC APR. If, I'm sorry, back up. If your project, I was thinking about something else, your project APR or your project, if you're a new project, if your assurances or your assumptions are that you're gonna serve greater than 50% of people who either have a disability, have zero income, or unsheltered. Because it's chronically homeless, the numbers of those chronically homeless, no one would get these points. Because the chronically homeless are, the ones that are out there now are not the ones that are being served. Because they're not engaging. So I'm going to, I propose, and I left these X'd so we would see the points. And again, I have an email to HUD about the macro that would not allow this to be calculated. I'm proposing that we take all of these, well, I can't take it off because this is PDF format. All of these off here when it comes to chronic homeless, and we just say that you are serving greater than 50% or whatever number we want to put on there. I'm leaving that there too. Greater than 50% of those you're serving have a disability or have zero income or unsheltered. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's very accurate.
Yeah.
I think that is a big, big plus.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, I'm done here. I'm done for the day. Hey, I got a compliment from Sandy. I'm done. See, you missed it when I did something right. I appreciate you. No, so the score sheet is saying that we can, we're customizing based on the local community. Well, this one here that says, oh, you may not be able to read it here. It says that based on your project's APR of those you served last year, greater than 50% of those either had a disability or had a zero income or unsheltered, meaning we're serving those who need service most. The macro is not working for it to calculate over here. That's why I left it checked. But we're going to redo it into our own spreadsheet. So the macro won't be a deal. But using that rather than chronically homeless, because right now that's not who's in our service population. 3 or 4 years ago, probably, but now no. But we got a whole bunch of folks that either have a claimed or confirmed diagnosis of a disability, zero income, and or unsheltered. Cool.
Sorry about that.
Just, show up whenever you can, man. We'll be here all day. So equity factors, again, having feedback from those with lived experience in your programs and in your organization, having a board member, again, any of these changes we want to make, we can make, and it's time to do it now. But it's really important that we have governance and instruction or cooperation from those from the BIPOC, LGBTQ+ community, those with lived experience, and you don't have a person who just shows up once a month for a board meeting so you can check a freaking box and go, okay, we met our quota, but we are engaging and talking to people about what their experiences are and how we as service providers can serve our constituents better. This one right here, the recipient has reviewed internal policies and procedures with an equity lens as a plan for developing and implementing equitable policies that do not impose undue barriers. It reminds me, remember in the last couple of years, we've asked for a copy of either a statement or a review of your policies on how you've looked at equity, how you've looked at are the numbers or that you're serving, does that demographically coordinate with our population as a general, and then the population of our of those experiencing homelessness, those kinds of things. So in the checklist, that I'll show you in just a minute. We put in there, equal access, policies and procedures with, confirmation of review. Just so we make sure that, again, we're all not only just saying, oh, yes, we're gonna accept everybody. How are we making sure?
Right.
How are we making sure that we're actually walking the walk and not just talking the talk? Any other local criteria we want to have? Now is the time to say. No, it's not there. Okay, we need to add that. Whether it's the fact, our priorities are families. Youth, those 17 to 24. And you can break that down, each one of those categories, but the priority is families and then youth. Do we add that in here to the scoring tool or not? I don't know. I'm leaving that up to you guys. Then we're looking at, again, this is for the new project. So asking about, excuse me. And again, this is what you propose because you're a new project. Housing supportive services, all of these things. Financial. And I'm not gonna sit here and read all of it, for, obvious reasons, because we're gonna take them all home. Let me go to something real quick. All right, let me go here. These thresholds is what I wanted everyone to see, and for some reason that didn't print out on your sheets there. These are those things that, and this gets into our SAM, but these are the things that HUD is saying, if you don't have, or you haven't met the first 5 of these, is what they're saying, should be non-negotiable. The first 5 of these threshold measurements should be non-negotiable. Yeah, I'll print it. Now you're volunteering. You just want to get out of here. I got you. Move this. But making sure that everybody has a SAM registration, that you have your unique, the UEI, I always want to put it backwards, that takes place of, the place of the Dun and Bradstreet, your DUNS number. These first 5, again, are non-negotiables. Let's,
What is good at that?
mhm.
One more. What certification? Does it require certification specified in there?
Your certificate of consistency.
Okay,
Mhm.
so the normal form,
Yeah.
there's not some new certification.
no,
that I have
no,
idea about.
no.
Okay, got it.
No,
Okay.
your
Work that out.
55880.
Yeah.
And
just
all that.
Normal form.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yes, you were supposed to have taken that class last week to get that certification.
Same person, I was like, wait a second.
We're all gonna.
That's what we all go, excuse me, is there an online version for that?
Make that up.
But we laugh about that, but as you're reading the notice, and as you're reading your application, another thing, before you start typing the application, read the instructions. Read the instructions, because you're gonna go, oh crap, it's saying we have to have updated our policy on equal access or Violence Against Women Act or whatever. You have time to do that while you're doing your application. You don't have to go, oh, we haven't done it, stop. I can't tell you how many times you have to go, oh, wait a minute, all right, we need to add this to the policy. We need to amend. All you do, make sure you have a board vote on it and make the changes. It's not all or nothing. Nothing is final till you hit submit on it. It's not final. And then if we have not submitted our consolidated application, you're still not official yet. So if you have to make a change, or you were struggling to get a MOU from this organization that they're good, and you can now check that on your application, and it's 4 days before we're hitting submit. Yo, I need you, we, as a COC admin, can kick your application back to you for you to edit it again. So it's never all or nothing. But the thresholds and the threshold for the new project as well. I'm hitting print one more time, sorry. I'm gonna hit print on the next one. I mean, last time you said you want me to go?
There might be some staff in
Mm, And I owe her, I lost a bet last week too. I owe you some Stromboli, don't I? So a couple other little things to go over before we try to get this wrapped up. I think this is the most conversation we've ever had in one of these ever. Let me, sorry for you guys online, give me 1 second, I'm trying to get back to my. No. Okay, ranking. There's also a declaration, and again, every form, everything we show, I will send everybody. This is just a form for you to attest that the financial statements that you're supplying and everything else are true and correct, and they're not something that you went home and printed up. Lindsay.
I'm smart enough to be able to do all that.
She said, girl, I can create my own letterhead. Talking about the appeals process, again, I will have to amend this now to include our new dates. So I'm gonna write this in big letters. Right now, so that before I send it out, I amend this with the new dates for the second part of that. And then I went ahead and put the certificate of consistency. It's part of your application packet that you said in eSnaps. And for some reason, my lines aren't showing up, sorry about that. But we'll go ahead and send out a copy. It's just easier to go ahead and have it. The certificate of consistency for what those of you who have never done, you guys see the certificate, Sandy?
Say it again.
Do you see the certificate of consistency?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
don't now? You do? Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't now. I see you.
God bless you. I'm sorry. Okay, the certificate of consistency is saying that your project has been reviewed by the COC, but furthermore has been reviewed by the city or that is the has a contract with HUD to operate the COC. And that you are in compliance with their consolidated plan. These documents, once you submit your application, we print them off. We have to take them over to the Community Reinvestment Department. They do a preliminary look over. Primarily, they're looking to make sure that you're a legal entity and those kinds of things. So they're not signing, the city manager's not signing off on ABC 123 agency that doesn't exist. But the Community Reinvestment then goes and makes sure that you're a legal entity in the city of Columbus or in Russell County. And then they send them to the city manager's office. He signs off on them. He sends them back to community reinvestment. We go pick them up from there. And we send them to each one of you electronically. And we keep the hard copies. If you want to come get them, please come get them. If not, after the end of the process, we scan them all and destroy the originals. Because there's no reason to keep them around when we have a digital copy. Again, without the certificate, your whole application be perfect. If you don't have that, you will not get funded.
Do you, we have a day to get that back to you?
It'll be in your application. You have to upload it with your application.
And then you can take it and get funded after that?
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
What's fun, it's a Monday, man. Well, all done, it's a couple hours.
Okay, that's why there's the detailed instructions, and the navigational guide works really well.
It's not out yet.
She does pictures, she does pictures. So that's the end of my discussion. What else do we need to go over? What else do we need to review as we move through this process together forever?
I think we've done a lot of talking. I don't know that we.
This is the most engaged I think we've ever been in one of these discussions.
Yes, this has been a good one for sure.
Danielle, you got anything for the good of the group?
No, ma'am. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? I owe you copies then too of the, you and Sandy, I need to go ahead and send you the, sheets right now while everybody's
you.
here, so I don't forget to do this. That's not it. Let me find. Remember this. Okay. Is this it? Nope, there it is. Let me hit share. I'm sending this over to you guys right now.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Because if I don't do it now, you know it's gone. Come in. I'm gonna stop sharing real quick and back with me. About it. Sandy. Danielle. Review. And edit. Ah. Okay, it's not letting me send it that way. Let me do it this way. Come on.
Hey, Pat, while you're doing that,
Yes, ma'am.
if I can just remind everyone, we can send out a blank copy of the consolidated application once everything is posted, just for you guys to look over. As Pat mentioned before, if you have any connections or it asks a lot of questions at the collaboration between all the programs. So if any of you if all of you can look over that consolidated application and you can see where there's a part that, hey, you have a specific relationship with so-and-so at the school, or youth is big, like Pat said, youth and DV has been big over the last several years. They're pushing youth again. So if you have any collaboration with agencies that would help us target the answers to those questions, that would be beautiful if you could look over it and just say, hey, this is what we do with those. I don't know if it'll help or whatever, but if y'all can, at least we can look at it, because we don't know what everyone does with every agency. And there's times that we look at each other and go, hey, we've reached out to 15 different folks, but nobody's responding to us, but we know these people are doing it, but we can't take credit for it unless we have proof that you guys are doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, everybody's nodding their head. They just don't know that you can't hear their head.
But see, I can
Some
see all you
voices
guys.
in my head. That's a whole nother story. All right, cool deal.
Well,
Everybody
I'm done,
signed the
Pat.
letter of intent. Sandy and Danielle, well, Jamie Lee, you signed, right? Okay, so Sandy, I'm gonna sign the letter of intent for you with everybody here, okay?
Okay.
How's the time? Phew, almost forgot who you were.
Another thought would be that with the, especially with the renewal grants, if there is, as Pat mentioned before, you want to reallocate your money. Several years back, I took the risk of reallocating some of my money from my transitional housing because I had noticed that it was not one of the priorities of HUD any longer. And in our continuum, I was not filling all of the beds that I had. So I transferred some of my money to asked to reallocate some of my money to my permanent supportive housing, and it was approved. And it's been one of the biggest advantages for us because, and we're still full, as Pat mentioned also before, with permanent supportive housing, we stay full. And so that if you, had different programs and you look at them, or if you see other programs that may be struggling or that could use your assistance and you're not using all of your money, we put in the application that it was a voluntary reallocation, but we still, as a continuum, get credit for looking at the best way to spend our monies. So that's another thought if you're a renewal grant and are not able to spend all of your monies.
Okay, great point. All right, with that, we're gonna wrap it up.
So let us have a minute early.
A minute, woo-hoo.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a
Bye,
great
guys.
day.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, Sandy.
Bye.